let's go on to the next round. And obviously, like when it comes to second round, I think that this is where you find like a big teardrop, not sad wise, but teardrop, right? Like I think the running backs go from we have the hurt running back, like elite guys, to now we're a little bit more questionable. But then we also have receivers. And I think the receivers start to become this, there's elite potential wide receiver ones to now guys that have a little bit more question marks in their roles. And two of the players I want to talk about right now, one vet, one younger guy, JSN, right? Jaxon Smith-Njigba, and Tyreek Hill. Now, Tyreek Hill was a perennial top 3 pick last year, and I think that has since dropped. He had a terrible season last year by everybody's standards. JSN blew his wide receiver 30-ish ADP out the water last year with a strong finish. Which one of these two are you in on?
I'm on the JSN side here, and I don't think it's particularly close.
Not close?
No. Like, we're looking at someone who's ascending to be a superstar in the NFL. The downside is he's going to be playing with Sam Darnold, who we generally don't know if he's actually going to be good outside the Kevin O'Connell system. And I think that's a very fair concern, especially considering the offensive line issues they had the previous season. But the whole entire thing is he has no target competition. He is the guy. Like, when they're throwing 36 times a game, probably going to be 10 to 12 targets there. Are they going to be on target? That's an entirely different question. With Tyreek Hill, he's got too much baby mama drama. Like, I think he's a fun outside personality, but when we see these receivers fall, they essentially die. That's just kind of how the career archetypes go. You see it. It's a joke that we all make about receivers going to Tennessee. But like, I think that is where Tyreek Hill is in his career arc. If he's able, like, I will say, if there's a receiver who can completely be the guy that no one wants, that is going to be that guy, it's Tyreek Hill. But for me, I think it's JSN, and it's particularly not close because where they're going career trajectory wise.
I mean, it's easy. This one is downward versus upward, right? Like that's what it appears on the surface. But Tyreek Hill, it's like he's still elite. It's not like the speed has gone anywhere. And I think he had an offseason dealing with a broken hand all season. It started at the very first game of the year where he's getting arrested right before the game. And he dealt with that. He dealt with Tua being out. And I think if that's the quarterback is a question mark, that's really where it comes down to is if Tua is right, if he's 16, 17 games, Tyreek Hill is going to be a top 10 receiver no matter what. Like, there's no other way to spin that. He's going to be healthy. I know his hammies tend to bother him towards the end of the year, but, like, Hill has legit 1,700-yard upside, right? And I think with JSN, I have so many concerns, not just about Darnold, but about what's his offense going to do under Kubiak. Are they going to start to run the football a little bit more with the two backs that they have? Is Cooper Kupp, who's probably going to be playing out the slot a little bit more than JSN this year, is he going to start to become a little bit more of a primary target for Darnold? Like, I have a lot of question marks about the Seattle offense in general, JSN's role. And like, I get that he had a really good season last year, but it's not like he's this big red zone guy. I think he can get open and catch the football with the best of them. He's an elite player, but I think this is one of those classic cases of looks better in real football versus what we're trying to do in fantasy. I think for real football, JSN is a dog, but I think in fantasy, he might be a little bit limited because I don't see 100 catch upside. I don't see 10 touchdown upside.
I will tell you this. In my rankings, I have Jalen Waddle drastically ranked higher than Tyreek Hill.
So tell me, where you rank Tyreek Hill right now versus Jalen Waddle in your rankings?
I'd put Tyreek Hill at like wide receiver 30, 40, something
Holy
like that.
Holy shit. You just don't believe it in him at all.
No, I think he's
so talk to me about that. What is it just a talent? You think he's washed? You think they're transitional? Like, that's a big stark difference. And obviously ADP, for what it's worth, ADP is bullshit. That's just where people draft players.
It's literally just our thoughts of like, all right, I think this guy should go here.
Yeah, it's like a cumulative thoughts of where people think people should be drafted. But to have him 30 or 40, and I know you do your own rankings, and I love that about you, by the way. Like, you don't give a shit what people think. You put him where you think. That's low. Tyreek Hill outside the top 30 receivers is low.
Yeah, I mean, you can make an argument for like the passing volume to easily get to him there, but I think you're going to see Waddle be the focal point, and I think you're going to see a continued emphasis in Devon Achane in the receiving game. Like, they had a lot of success there. He was awesome for fantasy there. I think Jonnu was successful. I just think that Tyreek Hill is at the end of his career, and this is not a guy that you want to be paying that cost when you have other players in that range that can realistically help your team a lot more. Like outside of JSN, for example, like I'm sure there are plenty of guys that we could talk about that are just like, this guy's going to provide you more value than Tyreek Hill will.
Yeah, I don't know if I see. So so this is another part then to this. Obviously, you have Tyreek Hill way lower. Does that mean that your take on JSN is different? Like, you think you're only picking that because Tyreek Hill is so low for you and this was easy, or do you think JSN is also going to have a really nice season this year?
I think there's a genuine world where JSN could finish as the wide receiver one. Like, I wouldn't be surprised. But I don't want to make that take just because I'm not a big believer in the offense, because I think there's too many factors that, from a theoretical ball-knowing stance, that I just don't believe in. But, like, I also wouldn't be surprised if we're sitting here 2 weeks in, like we were with the Saints last year, and being like, well, this team just dropped 40 points back-to-back weeks.
Yeah.
Like, what's going on here?
They will. I think they'll come out the gate and probably surprise, because what we always do, especially like as NFL fans, is we hammer down on the teams that look like they took a step backwards, right?
Yeah.
We kind of like underrate teams to too much of a degree, right? Like in the past, we've done that with the Texans, or I think we did that with the Buccaneers when Baker was there. I think
we've done that with Bucks for a while with Baker. I think we just need to have the conversation that this guy might be good.
He's good. He's a good football player, and there's a lot of teams. I kind of think we're doing that with the Saints this year too. Just to put that. out there.
I think Saints are a fun team this year with Kellen Moore.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. But I think if the Seahawks can get out to a fast start, I think JSN. I think he's more wide receiver 2 than wide receiver 1. And I think you have to take him as a wide receiver 1, unfortunately, because of the season he had last year. I don't know. Before we get into it, we got a question that came in: wide receiver or running back in the first round? Which would you prioritize? I think it's about the player this year more than it is about the position. I think you need to get a running back early, and I would like to have 4 running backs before like the 9th round. That's about where I think there's a big drop off in running back. So I'd want to have at least 4 guys there, 3 to 4. But as far as like who would I prioritize, it really depends on the player, because I think that if I'm looking at St. Brown versus Gibbs, I'm probably taking Gibbs. If I'm looking at Malik Neighbors versus maybe a running back like a Derrick Henry, I'm probably taking Malik Neighbors. So what about you?
Yeah. I'm pretty much the exact same way, in the sense of like, if I'm in a redraft league, I'll probably consider looking at a receiver first, just because I think that's the way you should be drafting a little bit more as receiver heavy this year, just because of how great running backs were. I think there's more landmines that we have to avoid. But that's essentially where my brain is just overthinking things more than anything.
No, it's a smart thought, because the value is always in the position that didn't perform as well the year before. That's always where the value is. Like last year it was at receiver, sometimes going to be at quarterback or at tight end. I think this year you need to get a top running back. The thing is, because there's so many good running backs and some of them are going to fail us, in the second round, you can get Breece Hall, Jonathan Taylor, CMC, like Derrick Henry. There's Josh Jacobs goes in the second round. In the third round, we're still cleaning up on a lot of value. Alvin Kamara and Joe Mixon, guys that were in the top 10 last year. And then you get upside picks. You got Bucky Irving chilling in there, Chase Brown chilling in there. So there's a lot of running backs. I just think you need to secure them before we get to like those 30 ranges, because I feel like after that, there's a very stark drop off around like running back 30 to 35.
I feel like the nuts are kind of in that range, to be honest, because I look at it and I'm like, we're just modeling offenses and obviously thinking about like previous draft positions. But say Pacheco's what he was supposed to be last year, right? That's completely mispriced. He's going to be on the Chiefs. I guarantee they're projected top 5 in points every single weekend. Brian Robinson. Oh my God. Why are we not drafting this man higher? I traded him away in a dynasty league, don't get me wrong, but this offense is the exact same offense as what they have in Baltimore. What if he has a Derrick Henry-like season this year? Like,
that's crazy. That's crazy.
It'd be insane, but like, it's definitely possible. Look at what he did at Bama. Like, him and Derrick Henry are boys. Like,
that's not that far-fetched. It is far-fetched. I'm gonna say it's far-fetched.
Oh, it's crazy. It sounds crazy, but when we're looking back on this, we could just be like, huh. We did expect Jaden Daniels to be that damn good, and we expected them to score a lot of points, and Brian Robinson just happened to be there.
Just correlating with the fact that the offense is going to be good and have opportunities in the red zone. But Debo's there too. We see Debo look a little slow.
Debo's spent a little bit too much time eating. I'm not gonna lie. I looked at that because I was gonna try to be a Debo bull this year, because I was like, you know what, he probably heard all those comments this offseason. He's coming in hot. He's gonna be a dog. Nah, he's like, I'm gonna eat more.
Yeah, I hope not, man. I hope he gets right. And you talk about it. There's other running backs I like down there, forgotten names. You know, you got your Devontaes, your Travis Etienne's, your Stevensons. I feel like that's kind of the cutoff for me, though. Right around there.